The explosion should have killed Staff Sergeant Maya Ghost Carter. Instead, she crawled from the burning wreckage with blood in her eyes and revenge in her heart. What happened next became legend in sniper circles worldwide, the longest confirmed kill shot in modern warfare history, made by a woman they all thought was dead. Meet Maya Carter, 26 years old, auburn hair usually braided tight, steel gray eyes that could calculate wind drift at 2,000 meters without a scope. For 18 months, she had served as the designated marksman for Alpha Squad, 2nd Battalion, 82nd Airborne Division. But to most of her male teammates, she was still just the girl who happened to be good with a rifle. They respected her skills, but they never truly saw her as an equal. That was about to change in the most dramatic way possible. Maya's father, Master Sergeant David Longshot Carter, had been one of the Army's most decorated snipers before an IED took his life in Afghanistan when Maya was 19. Every weekend of her childhood, he had taken her to remote ranges where he taught her everything about precision shooting, breath control, ballistic calculations, wind reading, and most importantly, the mental discipline required to take a life from impossible distances. A sniper isn't just someone who can shoot straight, baby girl, he would tell her as they practiced at dawn. A sniper is someone who can wait motionless for 12 hours, then make one shot that changes everything. Most people can't handle that kind of responsibility. But you have the patience of stone and the eyes of an eagle. Maya's childhood had been unconventional by any standard. While other girls her age were playing with dolls, she was learning to calculate ballistic trajectories. By age 12, she could field strip and reassemble any military rifle blindfolded. At 14, she was making consistent hits at 1,000 meters with her father's custom .308 Winchester. Her high school classmates never knew that the quiet girl in their chemistry class could outshoot most police snipers. The training wasn't just about shooting. Her father had taught her patience through hours-long observation exercises where she would lie motionless in camouflaged positions, watching for specific targets. He taught her fieldcraft through camping trips that were actually advanced reconnaissance training. Most importantly, he taught her the psychological aspects of precision shooting, how to remain calm under pressure, how to make life-or-death decisions in split seconds, and how to live with the consequences of taking human life. The hardest part isn't making the shot, Maya, he would explain during their evening discussions about ethics and warfare. The hardest part is knowing when to take it and being able to sleep at night after you do. A true sniper protects life by taking life. That's a burden that requires exceptional mental strength. After his death, Maya enlisted with one goal: to honor his memory by becoming the deadliest sniper the Army had ever seen. But military bureaucracy and old-fashioned attitudes had other plans. Despite scoring perfect marks in sniper school and outperforming every male candidate in her class, she was assigned to regular infantry units and treated as additional firepower rather than a true precision marksman. Her performance in advanced marksmanship training had been nothing short of extraordinary. She achieved the highest scores in the history of the Army Marksmanship Unit, setting new records for accuracy at extended ranges. Her instructors recommended her for immediate assignment to Special Operations units, but those recommendations were consistently overruled by senior officers who believed that frontline sniper positions should be reserved for men. Carter has the skills, one colonel had written in her evaluation, but lacks the physical presence and psychological toughness required for extended combat operations in hostile territory. The irony wasn't lost on Maya. The same psychological toughness that these officers doubted was exactly what her father had spent years developing in her. She had the mental discipline to remain motionless in a hide for 16 hours straight, the emotional control to make precision shots while under intense pressure, and the tactical intelligence to plan complex stalking approaches through enemy territory. Her current assignment with Alpha Squad was supposed to be different. Captain Marcus Webb, the squad leader, had specifically requested a designated marksman for their high-risk operations in the mountains of Afghanistan. But even Webb, who respected her abilities, still saw her as backup rather than primary sniper support. "Carter's good," he would tell other officers. But when things get really bad, you want someone with more physical presence, handling the long shots. Maya endured the subtle dismissals and patronizing comments in silence, knowing that eventually her skills would speak louder than their prejudices. She just never imagined the opportunity would come at such a terrible cost. The weeks leading up to the mission had been particularly challenging. Intelligence reports indicated increased enemy activity in their area of operations, with sophisticated ambush tactics being employed against coalition forces. Maya had analyzed enemy sniper patterns and identified several high-probability positions that hostile marksmen might use. She had prepared detailed range cards and wind charts for dozens of potential engagement scenarios, work that went largely unnoticed by her squad mates who saw her preparation as excessive. "You worry too much, Carter," Sergeant Vasquez had told her the night before the mission. "It's just recon. We'll be in and out before anyone knows we're there." But Maya's father had taught her that the most dangerous missions were often the ones that seemed routine. "Complacency kills more soldiers than enemy bullets," he used to say. "When everyone else is relaxed, that's when you need to be most alert." The mission had started as routine reconnaissance. Intelligence reports indicated enemy movement in the Hindu Kush Mountains, and Alpha Squad was tasked with confirming hostile positions and calling in air support if necessary. 9 soldiers, including Maya, were inserted via helicopter at dawn on a rocky outcrop overlooking the valley floor. Captain Webb positioned the squad in a defensive formation among the boulders, with Maya taking overwatch position about 50 meters upslope with her M24 sniper weapon system. The plan was simple: observe, report, and extract. No direct engagement unless absolutely necessary. For 6 hours, they watched enemy fighters moving supplies through the valley below. Maya counted at least 30 hostiles, all heavily armed, some carrying what appeared to be advanced weaponry. Through her scope, she could see faces clearly at 800 meters, close enough to take precision shots, but orders were to maintain concealment and gather intelligence only. "Ghost, you seeing what I'm seeing down there?" Webb's voice crackled through her radio headset. "Confirmed, Captain. Multiple hostiles, estimated 3-0, moving supplies northeast toward suspected weapons cache. I have clear shots on leadership targets if required." "Negative, Ghost. Maintain overwatch only. We're here to watch, not engage." Maya settled into her hide, using natural camouflage and patient observation techniques her father had drilled into her. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher, making heat shimmer distort her scope picture, but she remained motionless, tracking enemy movement and updating the squad on positions. The other members of Alpha Squad included Sergeant First Class Antonio Vasquez, the team's explosives expert who had served 3 tours and treated Maya like a younger sister. Staff Sergeant Kyle Morrison, a former ranger who grudgingly respected her shooting but still made jokes about women in combat. Corporal Jake Patterson, a medic who appreciated having someone watch his back during dangerous extractions. Specialist Ryan Chen, a communications expert who relied on Maya's overwatch during radio operations. Private First Class Tyler Brooks, a young soldier on his first deployment who looked up to Maya as a mentor. Specialist Mike Rodriguez, a machine gunner who had initially been skeptical of female soldiers but had come to trust Maya's tactical judgment. And Corporal Sam Johnson, a demolition specialist who had seen Maya's precision shooting save lives on previous missions. Each of these men had their own story, their own reasons for serving, and their own relationships with Maya that had developed over months of shared operations. Vasquez, the oldest member of the squad at 32, had taken on a protective older brother role, often deflecting the more inappropriate comments from other soldiers. Morrison, despite his jokes, secretly respected Maya's dedication and had recommended her for advanced training on multiple occasions. Patterson, the medic, had worked with Maya on several casualty evacuations and trusted her completely to provide accurate covering fire during dangerous medical procedures. Brooks, barely 20 years old, represented the new generation of soldiers who had grown up with female combat veterans and saw Maya's presence as normal rather than exceptional. Chen appreciated Maya's intelligence and tactical awareness, often consulting with her on communication protocols and extraction procedures. Rodriguez had initially been one of Maya's harshest critics, but had become one of her strongest supporters after witnessing her performance under fire. Johnson, a steady professional with 8 years of service, valued Maya's consistent reliability and precise shooting skills. That's when everything went wrong. At 13:47 hours, Maya noticed something that made her blood run cold. 3 enemy fighters were moving up the ridge toward Alpha Squad's position, carrying what appeared to be a remote detonation device. The main group in the valley had been a distraction. The real threat was climbing directly toward her teammates. "Captain, you have 3 tangos approaching your 6, approximately 200 meters in closing. They appear to have IED equipment." "Confirmed, Ghost. We see them, moving to new position." But it was too late. The enemy had planned this perfectly. As Alpha Squad tried to relocate, Maya heard the distinctive whistle of incoming mortars. The first explosion hit 50 meters from her position, showering her with rocks and debris. The second landed directly in the middle of her squad. The blast was devastating. Through her scope, Maya watched in horror as the explosion consumed the area where her 8 teammates had been positioned. Smoke and dust obscured everything. Secondary explosions from ammunition cook-off created a hellish landscape of fire and destruction. "Alpha Squad, report! Captain Webb, come in!" Maya's radio calls met only static and the echo of her own voice across the mountainside. The silence that followed was deafening. Maya's training kicked in automatically, but for a moment, the emotional impact threatened to overwhelm her tactical thinking. These weren't just squad mates. They were friends, brothers, men who had shared meals with her, who had trusted her to watch their backs, who had slowly come to accept her as an equal member of their military family. Have you ever watched helplessly as the people you care about disappeared in smoke and fire? Maya's world collapsed in that moment, but her training kicked in automatically. Enemy fighters were already moving up the slope toward the blast site, probably to confirm kills and search for survivors. Maya had 2 choices: retreat to the extraction point and report her squad KIA, or stay and fight against impossible odds. She chose to fight, but first she had to survive the immediate threat. Mortar rounds were still falling around her position, and enemy small arms fire was getting closer. A fragment from the blast had cut a gash across her forehead, sending blood running into her eyes. Her left shoulder ached from impact with a boulder, but she could still operate her rifle. Moving with the fluid stealth her father had taught her, Maya slipped away from her original position and began working her way around the ridge to a new vantage point. If any of her squad had survived the blast, they would be trapped in the killing zone with enemies closing in from multiple directions. Through her scope, she could see movement in the smoke and debris where Alpha Squad had been positioned. At first, she thought it might be enemy fighters searching the area. Then she heard something that changed everything. The distinctive whistle code that Captain Webb used for emergency rally signals. Survivors. At least some of her teammates were alive, but they were trapped in the blast crater with enemies approaching from 3 sides. Maya keyed her radio. "Any station, this is Ghost. If anyone can hear this, give me your position." Static. Then a weak voice. "Ghost, this is Webb. We're in deep shit. 4 wounded, can't move. Hostiles closing from all sides. Where the hell are you?" "Captain, I'm approximately 300 meters northwest of your position. How many mobile?" 3 of us can still fight, but Johnson's legs are fucked, and Rodriguez took shrapnel to the chest. Chen's unconscious but breathing. Vasquez and Morrison are mobile but low on ammo. Patterson's trying to keep the wounded alive, but we need extraction now. Maya assessed the tactical situation through her scope. The blast had created a natural defensive position, a crater surrounded by boulders that provided some cover. But enemy fighters were systematically moving closer, using covering fire to advance in coordinated bounds. Her trapped teammates had maybe 10 minutes before being overrun. The extraction helicopter wasn't due for another 2 hours, and calling for emergency pickup would take at least 30 minutes. Her squad didn't have 30 minutes. That's when Maya noticed something that made her heart race with possibility and terror in equal measure. Approximately 3,200 meters to the southeast, on a ridgeline that offered perfect overwatch of the entire valley, she could see the muzzle flashes of the enemy sniper who had been directing the attack on her squad. 3,200 meters. 2 miles. In perfect conditions with a stationary target, that would be challenging for any sniper. In combat conditions, with wind, heat shimmer, and a moving target, it was virtually impossible. But Maya Carter wasn't any sniper. She was David Longshot Carter's daughter. "Captain, I need you to hold that position for 15 minutes. I'm going to eliminate the Overwatch threat." "Negative, Ghost. There's too many of them. Fall back to extraction and call for support." "Sir, if I don't take out their sniper, he'll direct fire on any helicopter that tries to reach you. This is our only option." Maya was already moving, using terrain features to mask her movement as she worked toward the optimal shooting position. Every step was calculated, every movement designed to keep her invisible while closing the distance to her target. Finding the right shooting position took 12 precious minutes. She needed elevation, clear line of sight, and natural wind protection. Finally, she found it, a rocky outcrop that gave her perfect visibility of the enemy sniper position while keeping her concealed from the fighters below. Setting up for the shot required everything her father had taught her about extreme long-range precision work. Distance, 3,247 meters according to her rangefinder. Wind, variable, gusting 8 to 12 miles per hour from the northwest with thermal updrafts from the heated valley floor. Target mobile, but following predictable patterns as he adjusted position to direct fire on her trapped squad. Maya adjusted her scope for the extreme range, calculating bullet drop, wind drift, and the rotation of the Earth itself. At this distance, even the Coriolis effect would influence bullet trajectory. One shot. That's all she would get before revealing her position to every hostile in the valley. Through her scope, she could see the enemy sniper clearly, a bearded man in camouflage gear, probably their best marksman, methodically engaging targets in her squad's position. As she watched, he fired again, and she heard Captain Webb scream over the radio, "Johnson's hit again. We need that sniper down now." Maya could hear the desperation in her captain's voice. Johnson, the young demolition specialist who had always treated her with respect, was bleeding out in that crater. Vasquez, who called her "little sister," was probably using his own body to shield the wounded. Morrison, despite his jokes about women in combat, had saved her life twice on previous missions. Maya controlled her breathing, feeling her heart rate slow to the rhythm her father had trained into her. The crosshairs settled on the enemy sniper's center mass. She exhaled half her breath and held it, finger applying steady pressure to the trigger. "When everything depends on one shot, baby girl," her father's voice whispered in her memory, "trust your training and let the rifle do what it was born to do." The M24 fired. For what felt like an eternity, Maya tracked the bullet's invisible path through her scope. At extreme range, there's always a moment of uncertainty. Did the shot connect, or did physics and chaos conspire to send it wide? Then she saw him fall. 3,247 meters, the longest confirmed sniper kill in modern warfare history, made by a woman who was supposed to be dead to save teammates who thought she was just additional firepower. But Maya wasn't finished. With their Overwatch eliminated, the enemy fighters below began to lose coordination. She could see confusion in their movements as they tried to locate the threat that had just eliminated their best asset. Moving to a new position to avoid counter-sniper fire, Maya began systematically engaging the fighters closest to her trapped squad. One shot, one kill, another position change, another perfect shot. She was no longer Staff Sergeant Carter providing supporting fire. She was Ghost, the invisible predator her father had trained her to become. "Ghost, whatever you're doing, keep doing it." Webb's voice carried relief and amazement. "Hostiles are pulling back from our position." "Copy, Captain. Maintain defensive posture. I'm clearing your extraction route." For the next 20 minutes, Maya fought a one-woman war against an entire enemy force. Using superior positioning, precision shooting, and movement techniques that made her practically invisible, she eliminated 17 hostile fighters and forced the rest to retreat to positions where they couldn't threaten her squad. Each shot was calculated, each movement planned, each decision made with the cold precision that her father had trained into her. She wasn't just shooting targets, She was systematically dismantling an enemy force that had trapped her friends. The emotional weight of seeing her squad nearly destroyed had been transformed into focused, lethal energy. When the extraction helicopter finally arrived, it found Alpha Squad alive in their defensive position and Maya Carter calmly providing overwatch from a ridge that should have been impossible to reach undetected. Captain Webb later wrote in his after-action report, "Staff Sergeant Carter's actions were not only heroic, but tactically brilliant beyond anything I've witnessed in 15 years of combat operations. Her precision shooting and tactical movement single-handedly turned certain death into successful extraction." But the moment that defined everything happened as the helicopter lifted off. Captain Webb looked at Maya, his face showing a mixture of gratitude, respect, and something approaching awe. "Carter, that shot you made, what was the range?" 3,247 meters, sir." The helicopter fell silent except for rotor noise. Every soldier aboard understood they had just witnessed something that would become legend. "How the hell did you learn to shoot like that?" Maya touched the small photo of her father that she carried in her chest pocket. "From the best sniper who ever lived, sir. He always said I'd know when the moment came to prove myself." Sergeant Vasquez, his arm in a sling but alive, looked at Maya with new understanding. "You saved our lives, Hermana, every single one of us." Morrison, the former ranger who had made countless jokes about women in combat, simply nodded and said, "I'll never doubt a female soldier again. What you did out there, that was pure warrior." Patterson, the medic who had kept the wounded alive during the firefight, added, "I've seen a lot of heroes in my time, Carter. What you did today puts you at the top of that list." Brooks, the young soldier who had looked up to Maya as a mentor, said quietly, "I want to learn to shoot like that. Will you teach me?" Chen, still weak from his injuries but conscious, managed a smile. "Next time someone questions whether women belong in combat, I'm going to tell them about Ghost Carter and her 3,247-meter shot." 6 months later, Maya Carter graduated from the Army's Advanced Sniper Course with the highest scores ever recorded. Her 3,247-meter shot became a case study taught to special operations snipers worldwide. But more importantly, she never again heard anyone refer to her as just additional firepower. The Army created a new position for her, Chief Instructor of Advanced Marksmanship, a role that had never been held by a woman. Maya used the position to train the next generation of snipers, both male and female, ensuring that skill and precision would always matter more than assumptions and prejudice. Have you ever had a moment when you had to prove not just your skills, but your right to be taken seriously? Maya's story reminds us that sometimes the most dangerous assumptions are the ones we make about the quiet professional in the corner. The explosion that was supposed to kill her instead revealed what she truly was, not just a good soldier, not just a capable marksman, but one of the deadliest precision shooters in military history. Her father would have been proud. Today, Sergeant Major Maya Ghost Carter runs the Army's premier sniper training program. On the wall of her office hangs a photo of that fateful day in Afghanistan with a simple inscription, 3,247 meters, when one impossible shot changed everything. And every morning, she starts her classes the same way her father started hers. A sniper isn't just someone who can shoot straight. A sniper is someone who can make one shot that changes everything. Today, we're going to find out who among you has that kind of precision under pressure. If you believe that true skill reveals itself when everything is on the line, share this story. Because somewhere, someone is still being underestimated, not knowing that their moment to prove themselves is coming. Maya Carter didn't just survive that explosion. She emerged from it as the sniper she was always meant to be. Sometimes our greatest moments come disguised as our worst disasters. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, you can subscribe to see more incredible stories like this one.